Peter, some news that has emerged, and this is about the window every day. This is the PCR test result window where pretty much everyone who covers the sport on a national basis tells us per source that there were negatives or there were positives. And there's a flood of tweets from 20 different reporters as to the day's crop report. It's like the crop report from Trading Places. We're waiting for Clarence Beeks every morning between 7:30 and 8 o'clock Eastern. And we now know that the Titans, no new positives, which is positive, and the Patriots, no new positives either. It keeps everything on track, but it doesn't mean that anyone's out of the woods, especially New England. Do not assume that everything is fine and dandy now, because Stephon Gilmore tested positive on Tuesday morning, which means he was quite possibly shedding virus on the plane home Monday night. And in that locker room, that's about 1,000 square feet at Arrowhead Stadium, he was around other players, and they may still be in the incubation period. They could still test positive tomorrow or Sunday or Monday in theory, although they typically don't test on game days. They'll probably test the Patriots on Monday. And that could derail everything, Peter. So they're not out of the woods yet.
I think the important thing to realize, Mike, last Sunday while writing my column, I wanted to reach out to an infectious disease specialist. I happen to know one, wife of a good friend of mine, Dr. Celine Gounder. And Dr. Gounder is an infectious disease specialist at NYU Langham Hospital in New York. Told me that when you get exposed to the virus, it's usually, on average, 4 to 5 days after that exposure that the average person would test positive if they catch the virus. So what that means in this particular case, I'm assuming that Stephon Gilmore's test was taken on Tuesday morning, okay,
yes,
in Foxborough. Then they find out late Tuesday night. So what that means is that, Tuesday morning, midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever time they're on the plane. Now we go forward 4 or 5 days. What is that 4 or 5 days? That's Saturday or Sunday. So I'm not saying that anybody has it or that anybody, that there's going to be an outbreak. I don't know. Probably not. But what I am saying is the New England Patriots are not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's amazing how many people don't fully understand that. And setting aside why people don't understand basic information like that should have been shared with us from the get-go back in March, there is a lag. Just because you're negative today doesn't mean you're going to be negative tomorrow. And I've had people say, I'm fine, I was tested. When were you tested? Last week. Well, that doesn't mean you're fine today. That just means you didn't have it the day that and it doesn't mean you weren't incubating it the day that you gave the sample. And you think about this, and remember, the Patriots took 2 planes. So Stephon Gilmore was on the plane with the people who had close contact with Cam Newton. Those other people who had close contact with Cam Newton ended up having close contact, relatively speaking, on the same plane with Stephon Gilmore. And that locker room in Kansas City, I mean, there's been plenty of complaints I've gotten this week from coaches about how small the visiting team locker rooms are. Chris talked yesterday about the locker room in Kansas City, how you can't get dressed at your locker. Everyone's cramped together there. So Gilmore was there. He was with Patrick Mahomes, face mask to face mask after the game. Mahomes is still in that incubation period, potentially. So just because everything's negative today does not mean it's not going to take a turn. We hope it doesn't, but we need people to be aware. We're not going to act like it doesn't exist. People get mad when we talk about it, Peter, like we should just ignore it. Like ignore it and it'll go away. Well, that's not the way it works. If we haven't learned that lesson by now, we never will, but that's not the way it works.
Yeah. It's like the letter I got to my column this week, Mike, from a guy who said, why do you write so much about football? You know you don't want these games to be played. And I said, okay, I'm going to now go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and mail in my column, okay, instead of staying up till 3:30 and writing about a lot of stuff going on in the league, because don't you remember, I don't care about football and I don't want it to be played. It's a funny thing that people think sometimes.
Oh, we get feedback all week. Why are you talking about it? Because it's the top story in the league. They're dealing with an outbreak, an obvious outbreak in one city. They're worried about an outbreak in another city. And now in Kansas City, they're holding their breath to see whether or not the breath exchanged by Stephon Gilmore and Patrick Mahomes may have gotten Mahomes infected. Another crop report. Clarence Beeks is back. He's going to get a third check this week from Duke and Duke. No new positives in Kansas City either. Remember, they had a quarterback last week, Jordan Ta'amu, who was positive. They've had no positives since then. And most importantly, given the interaction with the Patriots on Monday night, and specifically Stephon Gilmore, no new positives. But again, incubation period, people. Don't forget that. It takes 4 or 5 days for the virus to accumulate to the point where you test positive.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.